Good afternoon. The current crisis has shown the true mettle of our leaders. Some have stepped up and shone, and others have proved to be false gold or base metal. For an organisation, whether that is a household, a business, a country, or a global institution, to thrive in challenging times, the leadership must be ready. I'm Angela Turton. I'm a senior partner with Action Coach. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we get stuck in. Can everybody see my screen? First of all, I suppose, can everybody hear me? If you could put your hands up, that would be great, if you can hear me. Wonderful, thank you, and hopefully you can see the screen that I am sharing. Wonderful, thank you. So as I said, I'm Angela Turton, and I'm a senior partner with Action Coach. I have in the past run businesses, and I started and sold my own accountancy practice. And leadership has always been something that we have needed to know when we have been running businesses. But in challenging times, it is really, really important that we think about how we lead and who we are leading. So first of all, what is leadership and who is a leader? So a leader is simply someone who leads. It doesn't necessarily follow the job title. So the CEO or the MD of a business may not necessarily be the person who is leading. That may be a senior designer. It may be a senior technical person in your business. Or it may be, as we had back in the 70s, maybe somebody who is a trade union. But leadership is a vacuum. If you do not step into that space, someone else will. People who want to follow will always find someone to follow. So let's make sure that if it's your organization, the person they are following is you. And in order to be a successful leader, you will need to inspire and motivate your followers. Leadership can be good or bad, but it is rarely indifferent. If we think back in history to some of the great leaders, I'm thinking of people like Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Adolf Hitler, Gandhi, JF Kennedy, Margaret Thatcher, one of my heroes, the Duke of Wellington. They were all great leaders, even if you do not believe that the cause that they were leading was a cause for good. And in fact, probably in some of those instances was actually a call for actually quite an evil purpose. But they were all good leaders and they all had people who followed them. And COVID-19 has really tested our leaders on all fronts and in all organizations. And if we're looking on an international scale, when we think of the leaders of our nations, we can see the differences between the different nations and how they have stepped up to the crisis. So, for example, the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, embraced science to lead us through the COVID crisis. The Brazilian president completely rejects the whole pandemic. Donald Trump in the US, some of his daily briefings have descended to fast, a bit like a circus spectacle. And the Indian Prime Minister has shut down 1.3 billion people and has had no communication at all. Contrast all of those with the 39-year-old Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, who has actually stepped into this space in a unique way that is one of empathy in a crisis, and it tempts people to fend for themselves. So she's been given very clear, very consistent messages that are somehow simultaneously sobering and smoothing. And she's standing with her people and saying, this is our problem. So we've really seen some of our leaders step up. And and I'm not even going to comment on our current leadership in the UK. You can make your own minds up about that. So one of the reasons that some of our leaders have stepped up and some of them haven't is that actually there's 7 leadership styles, and a good leader will be able to use all of these styles depending on the problem that they are facing or the situation that they find themselves in, because all of them have a place. And what I was going to run through with you now is something that came out of research that Daniel Goldman published in the Harvard Business Review in 2000. And he was looking at the effectiveness of these, well, he actually only looked at the 6 at the top, these different leadership styles in businesses and the effect that the different leadership styles had on the culture of the company and on the results of the company. Did quite a lot of research, and if you want to have a look at that yourself, as I say, it's been published in the Harvard Business Review of 2000. So there's 6 that he looked at, and we will cover those 6, and then we will talk about the one he didn't. So the first of the ones that he looked at was the coercive or autocratic leadership style. This is a style that demands immediate compliance. So the leader will be saying, do what I tell you. And this has come from the leader's drive to achieve. He wants to push on. He's innovative and he has a lot of self-confidence, he or she obviously. And we're going to be, he's actually just saying, you know, do what I say. And this has got a place in the company. It may not be a good place for a very long period of time, but it's very, very useful in a crisis to kickstart a turnaround, or if you've got problemed employees. But what Daniel Goleman found was that if it's used exclusively in an organization, then it will have a negative impact on the culture and the results of that business. So that's coercive. And as I say, it has got a place. If you're in an emergency situation, you do just want somebody to tell you what to do. The next is an authoritative type of leadership, and this will mobilize people towards a vision. So the leader is saying, come with me. They have a lot of self-confidence. They have empathy for their team and that they're running, and they are a catalyst for change. So this is extremely useful when you need a new vision in order to make things happen. And it's probably one that's going to be the most used at the moment in COVID, as we're coming back into a different landscape. And we probably need to relook at our vision so that we can actually work out what the direction is. And actually what the study found is that this particular leadership style has the most positive contribution to both culture and results of a company. We then have an affiliative style where you're creating harmony and you're building emotional bonds. And in this situation, the leader is saying people come first. This is perhaps the style that we're seeing in New Zealand at the moment. And this is coming from the leaders' empathy and their desire to build relationships and their skills at communicating with everybody. And it's an extremely useful tool when you're going to try and to try and heal any rifts in a team, or to motivate people during stressful situations, which I think does describe what we're going through at the moment. So again, a really, really useful way of leading in the current crisis. And then we have the democratic. This is where we're forging a consensus through participation. So the leader is saying, what do you think? So the leader is wanting collaboration, they are leading a team, and again, they're very, very good at communication. And this is also very, very good if you're trying to get buy-in from a lot of people, or just to get input from valuable employees. So you could see how this democratic leadership style might work very well if you're leading a board of people who you need to keep on side. Then you have the pace setting. This is where the leader sets very high standards for himself and for his teams for performance. And the leader is saying, do as I do now. This is almost like a charge into battle being led from the front. If you can imagine them all on their horses with the captain in the front with his sword raised. That's the sort of leadership style this is. So leading from the front, doing it, and everybody else has to keep up. And this is something that comes from his desire to achieve, his drive, his innovativeness. And actually, he wants to get a really good job done. So he is very, very conscientious. The leader is very conscientious. What this is very useful for is if you've got to get very quick results from a highly motivated and competent team. Because if you haven't got a competent team with you, then they're likely to sink. They're likely to get left behind on the battlefield as you've moved on. So very, very important that you know when to use this and when not to use this. Because overall, if you're only using this style, what the study found was that it has a negative impact over the organization as a whole in terms of culture and results for the company. But it has its place, as do they all. And then the last one that the study looked at was the coaching leadership style. And this develops people for the future. The leader is likely to be saying, try this. What do you think will work? Let's work this out, how we're going to do this. So it's very much about developing others. The leader will have a lot of empathy, and he'll have a lot of self-awareness, and he'll be aware of what his team are doing. And it's very good using this style if you want to help an employee improve or develop long-term strengths. So if you've got a situation where a particular employee is falling behind, then a coaching style for them may well be the right way to go. And that's where your skill as a leader will come in, because you will have to decide whether I'm using the coaching style or the autocratic style with your team members. And of all of the styles that the study looked at, this coaching style is the least used, probably because it takes a lot of time to coach someone, and possibly because leaders don't tend to have these coaching skills because they haven't themselves been coached as they're coming up through the organization. So it's very, if you are intending to have this coaching style in your pocket, that you actually work out how you're going to be doing that. And we will be talking about that a little bit later on. What my personal view is that if a company has a coaching style within its leadership from the very top all the way through the levels, it will actually lead to long-term benefits, because you are going to be building a team of very capable people who have the skills, the knowledge, and also share your vision. So for me, the coaching style has great long-term benefits, but I absolutely can see that some of those other styles are going to be much more useful. If your building is on fire, you don't want to be sitting down talking to people and saying, well, what do you think we should be doing in this situation? And you don't want to be saying, well, what do you think of it? You just want to be saying, right, this is what we do. You're going to be looking to your leader to show you how to get out of that situation. And then lastly, the one that wasn't looked at is the laissez-faire leadership style. And this is just letting people do what they think is right. And on the surface, it looks like the leader is trusting somebody, and it could be that. But it could also be that they're just letting them sink or swim. You know, it doesn't matter, just get on and do something. They themselves may have lost interest in the organization. And what is very important is if you are in this, that you're actually only doing it with very conscientious, capable individuals who know and agree with the vision of the organization. Because what could happen is that you could have all of the different people doing their own thing and actually going off in completely different ways and tangents. And the organization's not actually going to be moving. So you don't have to have all of these in your arsenal. You don't have to use them all. The idea is that you know yourself and you know your strengths, and that you understand when the different styles are of use, and that you can pick and choose which style you're going to be using for the right situation. Leadership is a journey, and as you practice it, you'll get better. So, you know, you can't expect to turn up first day in the job and be a brilliant leader. Things will evolve as you practice it. So, if there are any questions about leadership styles and when you use them, please pop them in the chat box, and we can talk about those as we go through. The next thing I want to talk about is motivation. And it is always the job of the leader to find out and motivate his team. But actually, you can't motivate somebody else. It's impossible. It has to come from a personal choice of the person as to what they want to do, is to be motivated. But you can help them find what it is that motivates them. And then you can help them to work out how they're going to get it. But people have to decide for themselves. And it may be that it's your job to actually put the motivation, the rewards for the motivation in place, what it is that they're looking for. So Frederick Hatzberg did some study on this, human behaviors in the workplace, and he had 5 key motivators. And you can see that actually money isn't on there, because money in itself is unlikely to be a motivator. It's what we can do with the money that is a motivator. So, for example, a salesman doesn't particularly want money. What he wants is the ability to buy the latest car as a status symbol, or the latest hi-fi unit, or gosh, that's probably aging me, isn't it? But the latest gadget and the latest whatever it is that he wants as a status symbol. So the money will buy him the status. So it is the status that he's looking for, and not the money. But status can mean other things as well. It could be a title. Some people get immense satisfaction about from their title, and that will motivate them to keep going. Just mention satisfaction. A lot of people will be motivated by wanting to do a good job, and that gives them a lot of satisfaction, just doing the good job. Other people will be motivated by a progression through the company. So they might have started on the shop floor, and as they can see a clear path towards the board of directors, and actually that motivates them to get to the next level. And quite often we see this in network marketing. They have very clear steps that you can take to move up to the next level, and it's motivating the people to move up to that. In my industry, in accountancy, it's quite a big motivator to move from audit clerk to audit senior, and then you become an audit manager, and then you might start specialising a little bit, and then you make partner, and you can see the progression through, and that will be what is motivating people. I want to make partner by the time I'm 30, whatever that is. And then autonomy, being able to say I did it and I did it my way, and I know that I'm good. So what it is about you that makes that be your motivator, that could well be it, and achievement. So these are the 5 things, the 5 motivators that will move somebody on and actually get them working. Now, hopefully that makes sense. It's our job as leaders to actually work out which of those 5 is going to motivate our team members. And that may only come through the coaching side of things, because it's getting to know the other person. So we will need to dig a little bit deeper into what our team members are and what they're doing in order to actually move them forward and to motivate them in their life. And what's motivating you as a business leader, if what is motivating you as a business leader is to have the big house in the country with the helicopter pad, and that's what you want in life, that's not going to motivate your team. It'll motivate you, but it won't motivate your team, because they don't care less of whether you've got that big house, unless you're going to rent it out and let them stay. So really think about what it is that's going to motivate your team members. Now, in a post-COVID world, things actually haven't changed. It's still leadership. Leadership is still leadership. But our location has changed. How we're going to the technical work, how we're going to do it may well have changed. And that's what we'll be going through for the next couple of minutes. So we have to bear in mind that we are leaders first. Our job is to inspire and motivate. That hasn't changed. But we are now have empty boardrooms. We are now in a situation where people are going to be working at home. Some of them will be working at home. Some of them will be socially distanced in the office. I know of one of my clients who is actually created 2 different bubbles, so that one bubble is in one week and the other bubble is in the other week. And then they do a deep clean every weekend to allow them to move so that if one of them does get COVID, they don't have to isolate the whole team. They just have to isolate those members that are in the bubble with them, a bit like the schools are creating. So there's the problem of location. Now more than ever, a leadership has to inspire trust in their team. It really is important because there's so much uncertainty around, and there's so much fear in the workplace and in life in general, that actually we need to be able to really, really trust our team members. And trust is about being credible, so they know you can do the job. It's about being reliable, so that when you've made a decision, you stick to it. You're not whiffle-waffling all over the place and bending like straw, that you actually get things done, and when you say you're going to do them. Likability is something in trust, but actually as a leader, that's not as important as the credibility and the reliability. And you need to be having all of those, and you need to show above all that those are more important to you than your own self-interest. Because as soon as self-interest comes in, or the perception of self-interest comes in, the trust will go out the window. So it's important that you look at how you do that. Your team members need to know you care. So again, we've got a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. People are juggling all sorts of things. Homeschooling up until very recently, they might be looking after an elderly relative that's shielding, or somebody else who's shielding. So there's a lot of stresses on the individual at the moment. So a leader needs to be able to show he cares. And above all, you need to be looking out for the safety of your employees and your team members. And this has always been a factor in leadership. But there's different things to look at now, things that we never even thought of before, like, is it safe to be into the kitchen, more than one person in the kitchen? Is it safe for us to make each other a cup of tea or not? All of these things need to be carefully thought out. So the whole concept of leadership is exactly the same, but how we're going to carry it out is slightly different. So as I say, we've got team members working in different locations, and that has two major drawbacks. The first is that the communication is changed dramatically. We're no longer sitting at desks next to each other and having a chat. We're no longer meeting people by the water cooler or in the kitchen when you're making coffee. So how we communicate has changed quite a lot. It's starting to creep back that you're having those casual conversations, but you're not going to be having them with the whole team like you had before. And you've got to have them from 1 meter or 2 meters apart. So that has changed. And the second thing is, being in a leader is quite often quite a lonely position, because you are the one making the decisions. You are the one on which the buck stops. And it can be a lonely place. And it's always been that. But now, in this post-COVID world, the leader's sense of isolation is no longer simply emotional, but it could be physical as well. And certainly, we've seen some of the people we're working with, they're at home, they're not seeing anybody either. And they're also having to make all these decisions. So it can be a very isolating place. So we need to look at that, and we need to do all we can to mitigate those things. So as I said, the act of leadership has not changed. You are still there to inspire and motivate. But you're going to be doing things differently. You're going to be doing things in a different way. You're going to be using different tools. And so you have to lead differently in a virtual world. You have to be more aware of your role. But as I say, that task is still the same. So there are 4 common questions that remote workers, leaders who are managing remote teams asked. And before we were all forced into lockdown, quite a lot of us were very negative about these questions. We were saying, no, it will not work. And what lockdown has given us is the knowledge that it can work if you can do these things, it will work. So these are the first 4 common questions. You may recognize some of them in your organization or in yourself. So the first is, how do we know people are really working? And this is very much a trust question. Are we trusting our employees to be working, or do we think they might be, I don't know, going down the pub with their mates? And what we have found with the companies we've worked with is that during lockdown, people have got more done. So they're working at home and they've got more done. Now, it could be because they couldn't get out, so the only thing to do when they're in lockdown is to work. But actually, there's also the people that have had all these distractions of homeschooling and other support issues that they've had to deal with. But we have found that actually more gets done. Are they getting enough social interaction? Well, again, the term social distancing, we proved in lockdown was actually a little bit, it was slightly the wrong phrase. We were physically distant, but actually, certainly at the beginning, I was having more social contact with people than I had for a while, because I was ringing them up. I was speaking to them. Are you okay? We were having Zoom calls with the family every week and with our friends every week, which we would probably not see them every quarter maybe. So that was really nice. And so, yes, we are getting enough social interaction. But what I think we need to bear in mind is that if we come out of lockdown, we need to be very aware that we need to keep that going for those teams members who are still either in furlough or in the office or working at home and are not seeing all the team members. And as I say, when we're having to respect social distancing, we need to make sure that we still retain those social interactions that got us through lockdown, and that we don't just start ignoring them. Are we getting enough feedback to considering options? When you're sitting next to somebody or in the same office as somebody, you can see if they're struggling with a task. You can see if they finished it very quickly. You can see things going wrong. Oh, you can see things going right. But when you're remotely working with everybody, it's not always that obvious. So you have to work out, how do we do that? And the big thing was, can we be as effective when we're not together, we're not co-located? And as I say, I think that lockdown has proved to a number of companies that yes, we can, if we get it right. It's a very Walt Disney view. Yes, if. So yes, we can do anything we like as long as we have this, whatever this if is. So our interpersonal dynamics has changed. How we are interacting with other people has changed. Being seen is critical, and we're going to be talking about that in a little while as well. Our intercommunication changed, which we were talking about before. But also we're very used to, when we're interacting with somebody, to watching their body language. Most communication is body language and the non-verbal feedback that we get from people, rather than the words or the tone of voice that they're using. Actually, words is the least important. Whereas when we're not face to face, when we're got a screen between us, or we're on the phone, or we're using emails or any other technical system, we're relying on our words. So we've got to learn how to read the words and use the words again. It's very easy to mistake what somebody said. It's very easy if I send a text to somebody saying, have you completed the report? Now, when I say that, it's a very nice inflection. I've got a sort of smile on my face and I'm talking to you face to face, or you can't see me, but you can actually hear that actually that's not a big thing. I'm not making a big thing of it. I'm just saying, have you finished it? But in our text, it could come across as aggressive. So we've got to consider how we would understand that. So there's got to be other ways that you receive those interpersonal feedback that we all live on when we're working and leading our teams. And if anybody has got any great ideas for that, I'd love to hear them. Now this, there's a book called The Long Distance Leader by Kevin Eckleberry and Wayne Tamel. And one of the things that they say is there's actually 3 different gears. So they're all used together and they all drive each other. But actually, so when we're looking at our team, when we're looking at leadership, these are the 3 areas we need to be looking at and how we need to be breaking down any problems into these 3 areas. So we have our leadership and management gear. This is us as leaders doing the inspiring and the motivating we've already talked about several times. Then you've got the tools, the technology you use to do that. And that might be WhatsApp, it might be email, it might be Teams, it might be all sorts of different things that you've got in your own organizations that you are using to communicate, to lead, to manage. So if you're managing, then it might be something like Xero for finances and emails, and so it's all on the cloud. These different tools that you might well be using. And then you've got your skill as a manager, you've got your impact as a leader, and how you are good at you are doing something. So when you're looking at you, your job as a leader, then you have to look at these 3 areas, and it's easy, it makes it easy to then to break down, you know, what technology do I need to get my message across to people? Well, once you've broken it down to that, rather than, oh my goodness, they're not listening to me, that could be from 3 different things. It could be that you're not leading, you're not talking, you're not being the leader. It could be that you actually don't have the right skill to talk to people. It could be the tools. And if you've broken that down, that question or that problem down, you can then work out what you need to do. Do I need communication training so I get my skill up? Do I need to have a clearer vision of where we're going so that my leadership inspiration is there? Or actually, am I just using the wrong tool? Should I be changing the tool? And, you know, before we had, you know, it wasn't quite as stark as it is now, and the problems didn't get raised to the front. So it's definitely something that now we're in this post-COVID world, we have to think about. It was always there, but I think more and more organisations will be suffering and will need to be looking at these areas. So the other thing in the long distance leader that will help you is focusing on the 3O model. And as you can see on the screen, the 3 O's are outcomes. So you're having a goal in mind. It's your job as leader to know what your vision for the company is, to know where you're going, to have those goals in mind, to lead through others, because you can't be with others all the time. So you've got to allow them to do their jobs. So you're going to be leading, you know, through those. And then you've got yourselves, your beliefs, your assumptions, who you are and how you lead. And when you're looking at this model, it was very deliberate that they put outcomes and others as the first 2 and ourselves as the last one. Because the best leaders see themselves as servants to the organization. They're not there on an ego trip. They're there to serve, and their way of serving happens to be leading the team. They're very, very humble people with great humility, who believe absolutely that they're there to help. And if you concentrate on these 3, then you'll be looking at the business and how the business can move forward, your role as leader of that business. And that will include everyone in this business. It's 100% inclusion. So when we're looking at outcomes, we're looking at 3 different types of outcomes. We're looking at what the organizational outcome is. Make sure you've got some very clear targets for everybody, and that people know what that is. You know where you're going, you know what the outcomes are. And you're going to have different outcomes, different timescales. So you're going to have, even in the organization, you're going to have days, things you have to achieve today and things you have to achieve in the next year. So make sure your targets are very clear. Then you have your team outcomes. People must know what they do fits in to the organizational outcomes. They need to know why they're doing what they're doing and why they've been doing what they've been asked to do. Excuse me. If they know and understand that what they're doing, even if it's only a tiny little part of the organization, then they will feel part of it. I've been very moved recently in the COVID situation by how cleaners in hospitals have been absolutely 100% convinced of their importance in the organization. People that we may not have even seen before, we now know have actually got such a vital role in that organization. And when you speak, seen on the news, the cleaners that have actually said, I know what I do is really, really important. I am doing my bit to fight COVID. So people must know what they do. Start again. People must know how what they do is going to contribute to the organization's success. And then you've got individual goals. So within your team, each person will have a completely different goal. And this goes back to their motivation. So why are they doing what they're doing? It may be that they want to progress up the company. It may be they're just working to get home, so to support their lifestyle. They just want to work 9 to 5 and get out of the house, out the doors. So once you know what those personal outcomes are, then you can establish the rules for working together. You can work out how to get support for each other. Some of these goals obviously may be short-term for COVID. So some of them might, before we got back, it might have been preparing to get back into the business, into the workplace. Some people are still in that situation. And others might be long-term goals, like, we want to be in a position in 5 years' time to be doing this, that, or the other. I was talked a little bit earlier about coaching and how it's important to know what your team is. It's quite can be quite stressful coaching remotely because you don't have that instant feedback from face-to-face interactions. Because you're communicating through technology, there's sometimes some social mental obstacles that don't exist when we're face-to-face. So your every interaction needs to be quite conscious and intentional because you can't get away with those throwaway comments that you do when you're face to face. The little in-jokes just probably don't come across as well. So make sure the other thing that is it's got to be a two-way conversation. You have got to be listening as much, if not more, than you're talking, because it's important that the other person is able to have expression. And as we saw from the study at the beginning of this webinar, it's the least used part, but I think it's vital for long-term success. So, learn how to do this. You're really thinking of the other person. You're really supporting them. You're helping them to get motivated, and this will give you such long-term benefits in the long run because you will have an educated workforce. And when you're not together in the workplace, you can't see people making mistakes. It's really, really important that you get them all to a situation where they can work autonomously. if necessary. And so you need to be seeing, you need to see what they're doing, and this is what we can't necessarily do at the moment, which is why coaching is important. Because if you can't see what they're doing, then how are you going to gather the information that you need to understand what's going on within your organization? And you know, that will depend on your organization, because some things, some organizations will be completely different. So work out for yourselves what you need to know that everything is happening as it should do in your organization, and get electronic scores, dashboards, score charts, whatever it is that you need to make sure that you are aware on a daily basis that what you need to have done has been done. So you need to see what's going on. Make sure your discovery process is broad so that you can gather the information from the whole team and not just one or two people. And we all have people we love to talk to. We all have maybe our favorites or our top team players. So make sure that you're actually gathering it from everybody, so nobody gets left behind. It'll give you a much broader outlook, a much more complete view of what's happening. And then you have to be seen. Now, when we're in the office, you'll be in and around where we were before. You might well have, had the big corner desk. You might have been seen as the leader, and they knew your door was there. They knew they could come and see you. They knew how to approach you if necessary. They could tell what mood you're in, because you're in there, and that's not always possible. But also, they need to know that what you're doing is furthering the organisation's aims. So what does that look like? How are you going to be visible to the team? How are you going to make the right impression? Be aware of what you're saying. Be very conscious, as I said earlier. So make sure that you plan things. You don't just pick up the phone and then forget what you're going to talk about. Make sure that you know what's going to happen in those calls. We talked about trust earlier. And again, it's one of those things that really doesn't happen, as I say, by accident. If you're working at a distance, it's very hard to get this trust. So you need to be thinking about it. So you need to as I say, have that common purpose and the competence. You need to know the motivations. And as speaking earlier about the credibility, making sure that they know that you are the right person to lead the company. Make sure that if people know that you're the right person to lead the company because of what you've done before, because of the actions you've taken before, because of what you're doing now, maybe the certificates on your wall, but that's unlikely to add credibility to a leader. It's more what's being seen to do what you're doing. Reliability, that is not intentionally a lowercase. So your reliability is just as important. You have to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. If you have told somebody that there is a consequence for not doing something, you have to follow through on that consequence, because the others who are in that situation will see that you haven't followed through, and they'll begin to doubt you. As I said before, likability, you have to be able to be in the same room as somebody to be able to get on with them as a team. And all of this can be undermined by self-interest. So make sure that when you are building your team, you all know what your purpose is, that you all have that common purpose, and that you're not going off in directions. That you believe that they are competent and they believe you are competent. And how are people going to be persuaded to go that extra mile for you? And as these three things get more and more together, and actually you can see that your purpose, their purpose fits, your trust will increase, and you'll be able to build the whole culture and the whole motivation of the team together. And a couple of ways for building trust with a remote team might be showcasing one person per meeting, letting them talk about their work and their project rather than you talking about it. It may be praising in public. Now, we're great supporters of actually giving praise whenever you can. And actually, what you should be doing is you should be praising your workforce at any time you can. But make sure it's in public so that everybody knows that you praise. And delegate in public. And make sure that everything is perceived to be fair. So it's very important that you're doing the things you say you're going to do. We talked earlier about the importance of using the right system and the right tools. And you know, this is going to be different for everyone on the call. Choose the right technology for your job, whatever it is. There's a few on there that that you can use. You know, if you want something done, if you want something instant, then maybe a text may help, or picking up the phone. If you want something, if it's just going to happen at some point, then, or it's going to go to a lot of people, then maybe email. But quite a lot of people aren't on their emails constantly, and they shouldn't be on their emails constantly. So if you want an instant response, you really need to not be using that as a tool. Having a common file location so that everybody can find things, and that they know where they are, and that you don't end up with the important documents within your company all over the place. And there's lots and lots of technology that you can now use that actually will make it easier for you to lead from a team from remotely. So there, you know, is what we're looking at. We're looking at making sure that we are seeking to talk about what's in what is happening in your team. How are you going to ask for feedback? We spoke about this earlier, but really think about, what does that mean? What tools am I going to use that? And how is it going to happen? Is it going to be, actually, I'm going to have a call with all my team members every morning or every evening? And that's fine if you've got a small team, but if your team is much larger, you're going to have to rely on either groups and team members coming up, or you're going to have to go further and do something else. Make sure that you balance your priorities. You've got to, yes, look after yourself, but you've got to look after everybody else as well. And examine where you are. I'm just going to rush through these a little bit. So, things to think about now before you go off and start being leaders again in your teams tomorrow. What kind of organisation do you want to be? What behaviours do you need to exhibit? What is it that you need to do? And what is your plan for developing and supporting your other leaders in your team? What does that look like in your organisation? This is something for you to do as a way of preparing yourself. So there are 5. What we'd like you to do now to finish up is just to quickly write down 5 ideas you need to take action on that we've been talking about. If you've got any questions, we've got 5 minutes or so, just pop them in the question and answer time. And you need to actually do that. Now, if you would like us to hold you accountable for any of your actions that you need to take, then you will need to let me know what they are for a start, and when you're going to do them, or get on a call with me so that we can hold you accountable for what you said you're going to do to become the leader that you want to be and that your organization will need. And we haven't finished with our challenging times at all. We've still got quite a few coming up, I think, as lockdown eases, as more businesses are going back. We've got another change coming at the weekend, but that's still not everybody. We've got the schools going back in September. We don't know what that's going to look like. And until we've got a cure, until there's a vaccine, until we know how we're going to be living with COVID going forward in the long term, there's still going to be a lot of challenges for you as leaders in your organization. If you do want to get together with an action coach, then give us a call. I'll give my details out in a moment. We do have coaching for everyone. They're on the screens. We're currently giving our webinars for free, but we have everything from Solopreneur Club for people who are working on their own, right up until one-to-one and team coaching. So if you do want to have a chat with me, my calendar link is there. Please pop on and book a virtual coffee with me and have a good chat about where you are, what your leadership style and issues are, and see if we can help you to move forward with that. It is on our website as well. If you go to our website, you will find the link on the front page, so you could book in that way as well. And I would be very happy to chat with anybody who needs to improve their leadership. So the thing to remember is that you are leaders first. It is your job to lead. If you aren't leading, somebody else will be. Make sure that it's for the good of the business that you want. So base, your job is to inspire and motivate. If you've got that in mind and you're there in service to the company, you can't go far wrong. Apologies. Done something silly. So that's me. That's us finished for the day. As I say, if anybody does want to talk further, please give me a shout. You can contact me at Action Coach Oakham. And if you want to come to any other webinars, we will be talking about time next week, I think. I can't remember what we're talking about next week, but we're doing these every Thursday at 2 o'clock. You'll be very, very welcome. So if there are any questions, please pop them into the chat box. If not, I wish you a good week and a good weekend, and we will hopefully see you on a webinar soon. Many thanks. Bye-bye.